What is Form 5500? If your business or organization offers pension or welfare benefit plans, you'll want to listen to this episode that explains the importance of the form, filing requirements, and the hefty penalties for incorrect or late submissions. Myers and Alan Perka from the 5500 Tax Group join us to help explain the details and filing of this form today on Small Business Talks. The Welfare Plan Form 5500 is a compliance and disclosure document that employers must file with the Department of Labor and the Internal Revenue Service for pension or welfare benefit plans covered by the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. The purpose of Form 5500 is to provide the IRS and DOL with the information about the plan's operation and compliance with government regulations. It's important for you to understand what Welfare Plan Form 55 compliance is all about. To help us better understand, we have Ann Myers, partner, and Alan Perka, senior manager from the 5500 Tax Group with us today. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
Doing well.
I don't know how good my introduction was to the topic, so I'm going to ask if you could just give us a brief overview as to what is Form 5500 and what does it have to do with welfare plans?
Yeah, I think you did a pretty good job introducing what the form is, but yeah, I'll go into a little bit more detail. The Department of Labor, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation jointly developed the Form 5500 series. So employee benefit plans could utilize the Form 5500 to satisfy annual reporting requirements under Title I and Title IV of ERISA and under the Internal Revenue Code. The Form 5500 series is an important compliance, research, and disclosure tool for the Department of Labor, a disclosure document for plan participants and beneficiaries, and a source of information and data for use by other federal agencies, Congress, and the private sector in assessing employee benefit, tax, and economic trends and policies. The Form 5500 is part of ERISA's overall reporting and disclosure framework, which is intended to assure that employee benefit plans are operated and managed in accordance with certain prescribed standards, and that participants and beneficiaries, as well as the regulators, are provided or have access to sufficient information to protect the rights and benefits of participants and beneficiaries under employee benefit plans.
So when is Form 5500 required for welfare plans?
Well, for welfare plans, there are two sort of classifications. There are funded and unfunded. Funded meaning that it's run through a trust. The majority of them are unfunded. In fact, all of the clients that I manage have unfunded plans. And the threshold for filing for an unfunded plan is if there are 100 or more employee participants on the first day of the plan year. And so you're looking at active employee participants and any employee COBRAs that might be on the plan, but we're not looking at dependents at all. And so that's the threshold that we're looking for an unfunded plan.
When are Forms 5500 due?
The 5500 is due on the last day of the 7th month following the end of the plan year. So for a calendar year plan, December 31st plan year end, the due date would be July 31st. You can file an extension that gives you an additional 2.5 months, but that extension needs to be filed before the original due date. So for a calendar year plan, July 31st, can extend it out to October 15th.
Now the big question, are there penalties for not filing a Form 5500?
Yes, there are. There are what are classified as late filers and non-filers. For a late filer, the penalty can be $50 a day with no limit from the original due date. And a non-filer, which is, I guess, someone who would be found to have not filed at all that needed to, that can be up to $300 a day, up to $30,000 per year. But the DOL has come up with a program that's called the Delinquent Filer Voluntary Compliance Program. We call it DFVC. And they're trying to get people just to comply. They're not looking to penalize people so much. And so if you voluntarily submit late filings, the penalty is only $10 a day from the original due date, up to $2,000 per filing. So that would be for a year, would max out at $2,000, and then $4,000 for a plan. So no matter how many years past the second year, the penalties max out at 4,000, which is a much more reasonable approach than the other ones, could potentially really financially impact the company.
Those penalties are large, but when you take any type of a government filing that doesn't have a balance due, which there is none with the 5,500, the penalties have to be high so that it encourages people to comply, because otherwise they wouldn't. And so that's why the penalties are so large. But it is great, the DFBC program, that it is a reduced penalty and gets you back into compliance.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me ask you this. What are the common benefits of welfare plans?
Well, some of the benefits that we see most are health, life insurance, disability, dental, vision. There are severance plans that you see. There's some, sometimes you'll see like a prepaid legal plan, things like that. But basically, it's your general offerings by your employer, your medical, dental, vision, life, disability.
Are there additional schedules required to be attached to the form?
But yeah, if you're for anything that's insured, there's a Schedule A, which is where we gather the insurance information. If it's a self-funded benefit, one that's not insured, then there is no Schedule A that's required, but we just record that self-funded benefit on this one particular line. There's a little code with a 4 and a letter after it that tells that that's a particular benefit that's being offered.
Are certain plan sponsors exempt from having to file the form?
Actually, there are several that are exempt. Government plans, interestingly enough, the government has exempted themselves from having to file a 5,500. Certain church plans under ERISA Section 333, group insurance arrangements where there is an insurance plan that covers multiple companies, then that whoever offers that group insurance plan files the 5,500 for all of those participating companies. So you as a company that participates in one of those is not required to file your own 5,500. And then welfare plans that are maintained outside of the United States. If you've got a U.S. company that has a plan just for their office, say in England, for instance, that particular plan would not have to file a 5,500.
And of course, just to reiterate, and any other welfare plan unfunded that's under 100 is also exempt from having to file.
That is true.
Can a plan sponsor file more than one welfare form?
Yeah, if there's not a wrap document, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, then each individual, there can be multiple plans that would all have to be filed individually.
And the number of plans without a wrap document, you would take a look at the benefits that are offered and then the carriers. So for instance, say you have got one carrier that you've got your medical, your dental, and your vision with. You can group those benefits together under one 5,500. But say if your medical is with one company, your dental's with another, your vision's with another, then you could potentially have 3 5,500s that need to be filed. So you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Essentially, each individual insurance contract becomes a plan document if you don't have an overall plan document that wraps it all together. And of course, a self-funded benefit would not have an insurance contract, but it would still be a separate plan.
What is a summary annual report?
Summary annual report is basically a summary of the annual report, which is the 5,500. So it is a one-page document that takes all of the information that's in the 5,500 and puts it in plain English so that the participants of the plan can read through and see what benefits are offered, what the total premiums that the company has paid for those benefits. And it also tells them if they would like to have a copy of the complete 5,500, who to contact at the company for that information. And if they can't get it from the company for whatever reason, it also gives them the contact information at the Department of Labor where they can access that information if for some reason they want to review the entire 5,500 itself. But it puts it in very, very plain English, all the information in the 5,500 so someone can review it and see what benefits are available to them, what the cost is of what's been offered during the year. And that needs to be distributed to each participant who was a participant in the plan at any time during the year. So even when the 5,500 is filed, that's 7 months after the plan year, there may be people who are no longer employed there, but they still need to be provided a copy of that summary annual report because they were a participant during the plan year.
And that's the deadline for that is supposed to be 9 months after the end of the plan year, unless it was extended, in which case it's 2 months after the extended due date.
Right. So it gives the company a little bit extra time to get that information out to the plan participants.
In the summary annual report has, I think it's in the Treasury regulations, there's basically a template that explains what the mandatory information is that has to be put in it, and then in what order they want to see it presented. And for us, we have vendor software that takes the return that we've prepared and it just spits out that summary as part of the program.
I'm curious, why does the government require the information reported on Form 5500?
Well, they require that information so that plan participants know what is available to them. And then they also use that information for looking at economic trends, policies. You think back years ago when ACA was being put into effect, all the data that was used in trying to determine and legislate that law into effect, all the information came from the 5,500s that were reported. That's how the government knows how many employees have medical coverage and what that cost is of that medical coverage is. How many employers are self-insuring their medical, how many are fully insuring their medical. So it's a disclosure document for governmental entities, but it also then for plan participants too, so that they know what is available to them and how those benefits are supposed to be administered. And the time usually when, like I said, with the summary annual report, when people require or request a copy of the full 5,500, is there's usually some sort of issue that's gone on, some claim that's been denied, something that they think is not quite right. So it's giving the plan participants that information to make sure that if a benefit is available to them, that it's actually being administered and provided to them the way that it's supposed to be. And some companies, there's issues. And so it also, it's a way of the employee to have documented evidence of what benefits are provided to them.
I'm going to step back because we had mentioned this before about wrap plan documents. Could we maybe just address that? What are wrap plan documents?
Well, ERISA requires every plan sponsor to have a written plan document. And if you don't have an overall document that wraps all of your benefits together, employers typically rely upon the carrier booklets that are provided to them. So like we talked about, you need to file separate 5,500s. It's a bigger administrative task. If you put together a wrap plan document, it takes all of the benefits that you offer, wraps them all into one plan. You have one document that has all of the language required for ERISA, and then that allows you to file one 5,500 for your company instead of multiple 5,500s. So it really reduces the administrative burden while also satisfying the document requirements of ERISA.
So let me ask you this: who prepares the wrap documents? Is that something people would do, or is there somebody they can have help them with that? If a client wanted one, what would be the options that they have on that?
Well, we are currently offering wrap plan document preparation services, where we will ask the client for all of the information of all the benefits they provide, what the benefit is, who is eligible for that benefit, what the entry date is for that benefit, all sorts of information. And then once we get that, we do put together the wrap document. We provide them with the draft of it so that they can review. And then once we're settled and everything is in agreement, we know that it's all accurate, then we provide them with the final copy that they sign and execute. Our wrap document services, in addition to the wrap document, we also provide a HIPAA policy and procedures document, and we also provide services where we will put together a cafeteria plan for you as well if you need that, if you're withholding plan premiums on a pre-tax basis.
So it's amazing the amount of knowledge that you have in this particular area. So I'm going to ask you, obviously, this is something you're very familiar with. Tell us a little bit more about the 5500 tax group.
Now, the 5500 tax group, this is our 20th year in business. It was founded by myself and 3 other people that worked for Ernst & Young. We manage their national employee benefits tax group. And we decided to leave there and to start our own company, being a niche tax practice. I mean, we don't do your normal type of individual tax returns. We're just employee benefit oriented. That is all. So, yeah, we have offices across the United States. We have 4 different offices, California, Texas, South Carolina, and Pennsylvania. In addition to the 5500s, we touched on that we do document preparation services, but we also do some related tax filings that go along with the 5500. For instance, we file the Form 720 to pay PCORI fees for any of your self-insured medical plans. We file excise tax returns for other types of situations that come up. So anything that is sort of related to the 5500s, 8955 SSAs for deferred vested benefits, for instance. So we do those type of things. And then in addition, the 5500s, we talked about the health and welfare plans here today, but we also provide 5500 services for defined contribution plans like your 401ks or defined benefit plans. Is what we do. We are a certified women's business enterprise company owned by 4 women. And yeah, very, very happy, to be celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. It's been a great adventure. Our business has grown exponentially since we started it. I think we have clients now in all 50 states. We deal directly with clients or we deal through their brokers. A lot of our clients are brokers, and then we work on all of their clients and their company's plans.
Well, congratulations on 20 years. I didn't realize that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a big year for us.
No, that's great. We will also add the web address to the show notes. So if people would like to get in touch with you, they can go ahead and go right there and be able to get to that.
Okay.
This has been an incredible wealth of knowledge. I mean, this has gone into a lot of detail that I think is really important for people because it areas you have to kind of be aware of and what the compliance are and what they're used for. So I thank you very much for you and Alan for sharing your knowledge on that. I'm going to give you the last couple minutes to just, if there's anything we didn't cover, or to give you the last 2 minutes to say anything else you'd like to talk about the subject.
We sort of touched on it, but so we basically, we sometimes work directly with a client, directly with the plan sponsor, but then a lot of our business actually is through a broker. So the brokers, they arrange the benefits for their clients, and then they want those clients to be in compliance with the Form 5500 requirements. And so we end up with an entire office from a brokerage where they'll send all the 5500 work to us. And so, yeah, we do a lot of work that's actually for brokers, and some of them want us to work directly with the client, and other ones want us to be sort of just the preparer, and they want to handle all the interactions with the client. And we have plenty of both of those situations.
And is there anything you'd like to add as well?
Yes. Well, first off, Neil, I'd like to thank you for inviting us to do this podcast today.
My
we really
pleasure.
appreciate it. And just one of the things I wanted to add to it, like Alan said, the certain people we work with, they want to handle things differently. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is our flexibility. However you want to handle a relationship, however you want to handle the situation, whatever goes, we are willing to work with you. And as you had said, this is a complex area. It is amazing to me, though, how many people think that it is something simple. You just do it the same as it was done last year. And it's not that way. Because a lot of times when we get new clients and we'll look at it and it's like, oh, geez, this is wrong. This is wrong. And you want to make sure that anytime you're dealing with the government, that whatever you are preparing is as accurate as possible. So you want to go to someone who is an expert at this. And that's what, like Alan was touching on, that we deal with brokers. Brokers are great at writing the insurance, getting quotes for their customers. This isn't one of their areas of expertise, but they want their clients to be taken care of, and that's why they turn to us. So, we pride ourselves in just this specialty area. We have the four of us are founding members of the firm, have well over 30 years of experience. We're all CPAs. So we are a good place to bring your business and know that it is handled correctly for your clients, with whatever flexibility, whatever type of situation that you want to deal with. We are open to doing that.
That's fantastic. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, was because I am a big proponent of, if there's an expert out there, I think people need to learn there's sometimes it's better, and in the long run, it's going to be easier, and in many cases save you money to hire an expert to do it rather than try to work, go through the waters yourself and try to figure out what's going to work and then end up with penalties or anything like that. And this just seems like it's the natural fit for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Anne, Alan, thank you very, very much for all the information that you provided on this and for being a part of the program. And like I said, we will put information so that people can find your organization, get in touch with you. And I thank you very much for being on our podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope this podcast was entertaining and informative, and ask you to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, please contact us through the address in the show notes below.